The Board of Commissioners asks its members and citizens to conduct themselves in a respectful, courteous manner, both with the board and fellow citizens. At any time, should any member of the board or any citizen fail to observe the public charge, the chair will ask the offending person to leave the meeting until that individual regains personal control. Should decorum fail to be restored, the chair will recess the meeting until such time that a genuine commitment to the public charge is observed. This is, I want to welcome everyone, and this is September 13th, 2021, Board of County Commissioners meeting. And I will ask Commissioner Burns if you will conduct the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any adjustments from any commissioners at this moment? Any adjustments or to be added to the agenda? Hearing none, I will move on to the announcements, and we'll ask Monica Toomer, our clerk, if she will go through the announcements.
Good evening, Commissioners, staff, and public. I will read the announcements for this evening's meeting. I would like to add that our announcements are on the Durham County website, and they are also placed on the social media pages, including Facebook. Free adult daycare services and support. The Durham Center for Senior Life is excited to start a new program for caregivers of individuals living with dementia or cognitive impairment in Durham. Services will be available Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Sundays 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you are interested in learning more about this program, please contact Melissa Black, Dementia Care Services Director, at 919-688-8247, extension 113, or you can email her at mblack@dcslnc.org. Walk-ins welcome to the Durham County Public Health Vaccine Clinic. We're here and ready for you to take your shot. Visit the vaccine clinic Monday through Thursday for your first, second, or third dose. The third dose is for immunocompromised individuals at 414 East Main Street. The hours are as follows: Mondays, 9 till 4 p.m., Tuesdays, 9 till 6 p.m., Wednesdays, 9 till 4 p.m., and Thursdays, 9 till 4 p.m. The clinic is closed daily from 11:30 a.m. until 1 p.m. For more information, please visit www.dcopublichealth.org/COVID vaccines or call 919-560-9217. Chair Howerton, that concludes the announcements for this evening's meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica. If there are no other announcements, any other announcements from our board, Commissioner Jacobs and then Commissioner Long.
Thank you. I just wanted to add one more announcement that I hope we really can get this information included and out to the community, which is that Durham will be the location of a public meeting on redistricting that will be this Wednesday, September 15th at 6 p.m. at the Durham Tech Community College campus, 1613 Lawson Street. And I just think it's important that people in our community know this is a great opportunity for people to weigh in on the issue of redistricting. And I will forward the information to you, Monica, because it asks that people, if they are going to speak, you do have to register. and that you should prepare a written 2-minute maximum statement. And that there's also the opportunity, if you don't want to speak, to upload a comment to a portal. So I think it's important that we do get this in our announcements and on our social media so that people have access to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobs. So I won't have to read that since you've already announced it. And it's on it's on some websites, some Facebook websites as well as mine. And I noticed that it's on some other folks' websites as well, Facebook pages. Commissioner Alum.
Thank you, Chair Howerton. Commissioner Jacobs took one of my announcements, but I'm glad that she got it out there. I have 2 others. There is the Straight Talk Support Group in Durham. It is a transitional house for men who have been released from prison. They are currently hosting a fundraiser to be able to support covering the application fees for applying for rent for an apartment or for utilities. So if you're interested and able to support their amazing work, you can go to their website, and I'll share that with you, Monica, so you can get that on. They're a really great organization based out of here, based out of Durham. And my second one is that we have an election coming up, and early voting starts on the 16th, and you can register to vote during early voting. So if you haven't registered to vote already, you can go and one-stop early vote and register at the same time.
And it would be great to have a billboard out there, because with all this change, so many people don't even realize that voting starts this week. This week, voting starts. We've got to get that message out that voting starts this week. So thank you, Commissioner Long. Are there any others? I just want to just acknowledge all the people and all the first responders and their families that stood on 9/11 and the 12th, remembering what took place in our country and the things that individuals did after such a tragedy happened in our country. Just want to acknowledge that. So we will move on. The next item is our commissioners. We have before us the August 9th regular session minutes for approval. Are there any comments or edits to the minutes? If not, can I get a motion for approval?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of our August 9th minute.
Okay, it's been moved, and I need a second.
Second.
Okay, been moved in second to approve the August 9th minutes. And we'll need a verbal vote by clerk.
Commissioner Alam,
Aye.
Commissioner Burns,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jacobs,
Aye.
Chair Howerton.
Aye. Minutes approved 5-0. So our next item, Commissioners, is ceremony item 210496. Durham County IS&T Department being recognized as a top 10 digital county. Durham has again been selected as a top 10 digital county for its population category, 250,000 to 499,000. Counties was recognized by the Center for Digital Government and the National Association of Counties as they announced the winners of the 19th Annual Digital Counties Survey. Greg Morrow, Chief Information Officer, is on the call to share more details about this incredible winner that Durham County is. So Greg, it's on you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chair Howerton. I hope everyone can hear me okay.
We hear you.
Good evening, Board, County Commissioners, and County Manager and team. The survey conducted by the Center for Digital Government in partnership with NACO, it identifies the best technology practices among U.S. counties, including initiatives that streamline the delivery of government services, encourage open data, collaboration and shared services, enhance cybersecurity, and contribute to disaster response and recovery efforts. Many of these services were put in place by our esteemed IT team here in Durham County over the last 18 months in response to resident needs around COVID-19 and in response to our malware attack. And so I'd like to thank the Center for Digital Government in partnership with NACO for recognizing Durham County government once again. And we all know that the ransomware and pandemic situations landed a hard 1-2 punch combination for Durham County, but we were able to step up and meet the needs of our internal departments and our residents. And I am super proud of our esteemed IT team, every one of our employees, and the hard work of the county to help our community through this past year, and to be recognized again as one of the top 10 digital counties in the nation for the 5th year in a row. So my congratulations to the IT team, all of Durham County, as we try to, as we represent with these awards, we represent key IT initiatives from across all of the county, not just IS&T, when we submit these award applications. So my congratulations go out to all of Durham County employees. And on behalf of the entire team, we want to thank you, Board of County Commissioners, and the County Manager, Hager, for your recognition and for your continued support, and allowing us to come forward and have this award recognized each year. We hope we can continue with the innovation and the work that we're doing. It certainly is a good feeling to know that we have a great team here in Durham County government who can step up and deliver when the need is there. So thank you all. And again, congratulations to the IT team, and congratulations to all Durham County employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you so much. Commissioners, comments? I see a hand raised. Reverend BK. I can't see the rest of the heart. Is that a hand raised there?
I think it's the clapping emoji.
Is that the?
Okay.
Looks like a hand raised. So it's okay. So commissioners, any comments from you? Okay, I see Commissioner Jacobs' hand and Commissioner Burns. Okay, so Commissioner Jacobs, you'd like to go?
I just want to congratulate you, Greg, and all of your team as you emphasize the importance of your entire team for receiving this award since 2017, every single year. So congratulations, even during the pandemic, for sustaining that outstanding work. And I've really come to really appreciate, even being on the DSS board, the important role that IT is playing in every single department with the rollout of the ERAP program and all of the challenges of doing an online application. And I just hear every single week about how much your staff are supporting social service staff and problem solving. And I know personally, I just this past week had major problems. And so I would say that your staff seems to have the characteristics of incredible patience and tolerance, okay, and along with the creativity and innovation and collaboration. So thank you to everyone who is a part of IT.
Awesome.
and congratulations.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burns?
Yes. Hello, Greg. As always, congratulations.
Thank you.
I heart you and the team. I imagine, we all have things that pop up, day in and day out. And I know it hasn't been easy during COVID with a malware attack, but to consistently win this over and over again, I mean, is laudable. And it made me think about a quote that Bill Gates has, and I know I'm going to probably mess it up, but you all can Google it later. He said, the advance of technology is based on making it fit so that you don't really notice it. So it's a part of our everyday lives. And I personally feel like that day that they rolled that cart in for me and Commissioner Lam and Attorney Lowell Sala looked at us, he was like, here are your trackers, because you gave us some of everything. It really has been very seamless. I know that if individuals, I know the individuals receive the same type of service, not only with our staff, but in the public that me and Commissioner Lam received. So thank you for making this process easy for us. Thank you for making it where we can be closer to people, because if it wasn't for you all, we would not be able to do these jobs and be able to talk to people and be able to hold these meetings. And I want you to know that's not wasted on me. And for the people that we all represent, it is not wasted on us either. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Any other comments from commissioners? Interim Manager Hager, I think I saw your hand. Okay.
I did, and I won't take but a minute, but I just wanted to say bravo again to Greg and his team, and for the departments that work with him. There is not a time that I have called on Greg, this weekend is an example, that he doesn't respond without patience, grace, and an attitude, well, we'll get to it. Always responsive regardless, because this is a 24/7 shop. We never shut down. There's always something going on. And his team,
Incredible patience, and we appreciate you and all of them that end up having to work with us.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you again. We have another ceremonial item, and Commissioner Carter, would you like to read that one for us? This is 21057 World Alzheimer's and Dementia Awareness.
Yes, indeed. If I can get my technology to work, here it is. Just pulled it up. Durham Board of County Commissioners Proclamation, World Alzheimer's and Dementia Awareness Day 2021. Whereas September 21st is World Alzheimer's and Dementia Awareness Day, and whereas dementia is a syndrome in which there is deterioration in memory, thinking, behavior, and the ability to perform everyday activities. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia. And whereas dementia is the 7th leading cause of death worldwide and 6th leading cause for North Carolina. And whereas there is no known treatment currently available to cure dementia or to alter its progressive course, care and support can be given to enhance the quality of life and well-being of persons with dementia. And whereas Durham County supports the vision of a dementia-inclusive community where all persons with dementia are valued and fully supported in their pursuit of quality of life and well-being. And whereas Durham County invites you to join in partnership, collaborations, and advocacy efforts to promote well-being, inclusion, and health equity for persons with dementia. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Brenda Howerton, Chair of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, and on behalf of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim September 21st, 2021 as World Alzheimer's and Dementia Awareness Day, in Durham County, North Carolina. We commend this observance and urge everyone to join with Dementia Inclusive Incorporated to honor older adults with dementia on September 21st and throughout the year. This is the 9th day of September 2021.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Are there any comments from commissioners around on this? I don't have, there's no one signed up to speak on this item.
Chair Howerton, we have Janine Gordon actually here to speak on this item.
Okay, I didn't see her, okay, all right, I didn't see her name there. I'm sorry, Janine. Thank you for being here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I just am a member. I'm a board member of Dementia Inclusive Inc. And this is our first year of coming together and really wanting to bring attention to one of the #1 diseases that we are trying to diagnose is the key here in our country and across the globe. World Alzheimer's and Dementia Awareness Day has been in place since essentially 1994, and every year we want to bring more and more attention to this because it affects more and more people. The more we are able to diagnose this disease, the more we are able to recognize friends and family. This is not a normal part of aging, and we really need to help the community have a better understanding of not only the disease, but the treatments for the disease, how to care for it, what to expect, and that includes the medical community as well. So we really appreciate, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to have the Board of County Commissioners and you, Chair Howerton, to bring attention to Alzheimer's and dementia in our community and recognizing the 21st as the Awareness Day. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janine. And just one quick question. Do you have any idea about the percentage of people in our community that has dementia, Alzheimer's, anything around that?
Actually, I don't know that I have the most recent data on that. What I have is information like on the national level and on the global level. I'm not sure that I have it toned into to Durham itself, but I can certainly get that information for you.
It would be good to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this to us. We appreciate that. And are there any comments from any other commissioners? Okay, Commissioner Carter.
Just real quickly, I really do want to thank Janine and for bringing this forward and making me aware of this organization. I'm going to look into it because I could use some support for some things that I'm sure we will all face in some way and at some time with some family member or friend. And I think one of the most important things that you said, Janine, was that dementia in some cases can be reversed or at least slowed down, treated in some way. And I honestly didn't realize that and really appreciate that. And I'm glad we're lifting that bit of information up. It's really important. Thank you, Janine.
Yes, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. All right. We have another ceremonial item, and that's recognition of service and retirement of Lincoln Community Health Center's CEO, Phil Harwood. Phil, the board is requested to recognize Lincoln Community Health Center Phil Harwood for his years of exceptional service, community contribution, and professional presence in Durham, and wish him well as he prepares to retire. I don't know why he wants to retire. Like, why would you want to do that? So I'm going to ask Commissioner Jacobs if she would read the resolution that we have for you.
Thank you for the honor, Madam Chair. And I see you there, Philip Harwood. Great to see you with us tonight. The Durham Board of County Commissioners resolution in honor of Philip Harwood. Whereas Chief Executive Officer for Lincoln Community Health Center, Philip Harwood, will soon retire from Duke Family Medicine and Community Health Family, and whereas he has established a remarkable career and is well regarded for his contributions to healthcare leadership and management. Whereas Phil Harwood holds a Bachelor of Business Administration in Accounting and a Master's of Business Administration in Health and Hospital Management. And whereas he began his esteemed healthcare career as an auditor for Empire Blue Cross in New York City, and after 10 years of work, focused on hospital and other healthcare provider field audits for Medicare, Medicaid, and Blue Cross reimbursement. His work shifted to areas of budget and reimbursement, which later led him becoming CEO of a for-profit hospital in the Barbados, West Indies. And whereas Harwood continued his history of excellent leadership and service when he came to Durham in 1993, and whereas he has served as part of the senior leadership team at Lincoln Community Health Center for the past 28 years, and now heads administration direction and day-to-day operation of the healthcare center and its staff as Chief Executive Officer. And whereas while earning the admiration and respect of the medical community, Harwood has made significant contributions to professional organizations, has received many appointments, and has also published and presented multiple works related to healthcare and fiscal management. And whereas Harwood has led a remarkable career and created a rich legacy that will continue to impact the lives of others for many years to come. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the Durham County Board of Commissioners, do hereby resolve to wish a happy retirement and express sincere gratitude to Phil Harwood and encourage the entire Durham community to celebrate him and his significant professional accomplishments and community contributions. This, the 13th day of September, 2021, Brenda Howerton Chair, Wendy Jacobs Vice Chair, Nida Alam Commissioner, Namashina Burns Commissioner, Heidi Carter Commissioner. And I want to welcome you, Philip, and also all the members of your family. I hope they'll turn their screens on because I know they're here. And also Dr. Rosemary Jackson, who is the chair of the Lincoln Community Health Center Board.
Okay. Commissioner Jacobs, let me carry this through for you, okay? Thank you. So we want to start with you, Philip, and how would you like to start? You want to start, or do you want Rosemary to start? Who would you like to speak first?
I'll yield to our esteemed president, Dr. Jackson.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Harwood. I am so proud to be here. And actually, it was Commissioner Jacobs that brought this to the board. We were like, of course, absolutely. It is so well deserved. I tell you, when I became president of this board, I was quite hesitant, thinking, oh my goodness, what a job to have. But with Phil as the CEO, I can honestly say that it has not been a job. It has truly been a pleasure. We've never had anything come up that Phil and his team had not already had the answer to. So when they brought issues to us, they also had some answers for us. And most of the time, whatever it was had already been resolved. And so I think it's due to his, and if you all know Phil, he's very quiet. He's a quiet, strong, steady leader. And not everybody can do that because it's tough. Community health center work is tough. And so his spirit and his style of management has done Lincoln very, very well over the past 10 years as CEO, and then prior to that as CIO and CFO. So I don't want to talk too long, but I am so proud. I am happy for him that he gets to retire and do some of the things that he really wants to do with his family. I know he's been looking forward to that. And as bad as we feel about him leaving, we are happy for him, but we feel that we're going to be in good hands with our incoming CEO, who's Loretta Ford, our current COO. So thank you, Phil. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Godspeed.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Thank you. So you want to toss it to who? Who's the next speaker?
I'll take it from here. I'm not sure if there's anyone else who's volunteering to make a comment.
Okay.
Okay, well, to the Board of County Commissioners, county staff, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and a privilege to be your guest this evening. I'm deeply grateful to you for taking time out of your packed agenda to recognize my retirement after 28 years of service to Lincoln Community Health Center. Dr. Charles Watts founded Lincoln Community Health Center on September 15, 1971, almost 50 years to the day. With regard to Dr. Watts' massive contributions to access high-quality health care for marginalized persons in Durham, I heard him say that, quote, if you see a bullfrog sitting on top of a fence post, you best believe somebody put him there, end quote. On this occasion, I echo Dr. Watts' sentiment. I will therefore use this time to thank a few of the multitude of family, friends, colleagues, and organizations that were responsible for any semblance of success that I have enjoyed. I'm grateful for the advocacy and successful health policy agendas forged by the National Association of Community Health Center and the North Carolina Community Health Centers. I'm thankful for the partnerships and collaborations with Duke University Health Center, Duke Regional Hospital, Duke Family Medicine, and Community Health. I'm especially grateful to Durham County Department of Public Health and Durham County Department of Social Services for the myriad of initiatives that we partner on in order to serve the most vulnerable population in our community. Thanks to the Lincoln Board of Directors for their excellent governance and steadfast focus in health equity. Thanks to the entire Lincoln Community Health Center staff for their commitment to our enduring mission of providing high quality, accessible, primary and preventive health care services to the wonderful, hardworking patients that we are privileged. Thanks to my loving and supportive family, especially my wife Brenda, my son Dustin and his wife Nikki, my daughter Danielle and her husband Darrell, and my 4 grands, Colin, Milan, Renata. Love you guys. To the Board of County Commissioners, I'll be eternally grateful to you for this recognition. Special thanks to Commissioner, to Vice Chair Jacob for recommending me for this special honor. And thanks again to the board and staff for all that you do for Durham County. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. You know, probably everybody that, except for the most recent commissioners, have served. I know Ellen served on your board. I've served on your board. I'm sure Becky did at some point. So all the commissioners have served with you, and we appreciate you, the work that you have done over the years. And, you know, to bring your entire family tonight is just extraordinary. I'm looking at these little faces. So you get to spend a lot more time with your grands and with your wife now. That's extraordinary. So thank you so much for all that you have done and given to Durham.
Thank you, Chair Harwood.
And I'll open it up for comments. from other commissioners. Commissioner Burns?
I will be very quick. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so no, we haven't had the pleasure, hopefully before our tenure is up, or we hit other terms, that we do have an opportunity to work with the board. But what I would like to say, Mr. Harwood, is that I think sometimes when individuals think about marginalized people, they often think about the ultra poor, and they don't think about all of the communities that the Lincoln Community Health Center serves, especially when it comes to specialized care. And I have to say that there were many days where I was in grad school and professional schools that I stood in line, or I stood along with my classmates, because we had no access to dentistry. We didn't have access to specialized care, and sitting in that lobby with other patients who did not have what I had when I was younger, really cultivated how I thought about public health and how we ought to treat people. And the caring and professional staff that I always encountered while I was there, I can honestly say I've heard, and I can attest to the fact that leadership trickles down. So I do appreciate what the values you instilled in your staff, and for you always taking out the time for a grad student that might have done something knuckleheaded the night before. We greatly appreciate it. And that's all I have to say. Congratulations to you, salute to you, and congratulations to your family, because I'm sure they want to spend a lot more time with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from commissioners? Okay, Commissioner Carter.
Thank you, Chair Howerton. Phil, I just wanted to add my words of congratulations to you and deep thanks. I think, in the role that you have been in all these years, I'm sure you're one of the biggest contributors to access to high quality care for people in our community. And I want your grandchildren to know that, that you're a leader in that field. Nothing is really more important in combating health inequities. And I'm very grateful to you. And I would still be on that board, except that my daughter began working for Lincoln as a primary care provider. So I had to step off that board, but I really did enjoy my time there. Dr. Jackson, I think I overlapped with you just a little bit, in addition to the Board of Health. And Phil, I look forward to seeing you on the American Tobacco Trail more now.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Chair Horton. Mr. Harwood, we haven't gotten a chance to work together on the Lincoln board, but I've heard so many amazing things, and just being able to see the joy that your family is emulating through the screen right now, that celebrating your years of hard work and dedication to Durham County, but also to the community of Durham. Just so grateful, and I hope that even though we didn't get to work together as a commissioner, that we'll be able to share space and community together, because I know that someone like you, who has dedicated themselves for so many years, will continue to still find ways to serve their community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Jacobs.
I just wanted to add my appreciation, Bill, for all of your service to our community and your leadership of Lincoln Community Health Center. I've really enjoyed serving on the board and really getting to see, inside the operations. And it's very clear that thanks to your, as Dr. Jackson said, steady leadership, the respect that Lincoln has, not just here regionally, but across the state and across the country, the types of achievement, the standards, the standard of care, and frankly, the types of donations that come into Lincoln unsolicited. And I will say unsolicited because people, because of your leadership of the organization. So we will really miss you. I will say I'm also grateful to you during the pandemic, your service on the Recovery and Renewal Task Force, and the role that Lincoln has played in addressing the disparities around the pandemic. And the numbers, nobody has had the exceptional treatment of most vulnerable people in our community. Lincoln's numbers have really stood out. Again, so thank you. I'm not sure how much retiring you're going to be doing. I know your wife has some plans for you. So we know that you all are a busy family.
Her name is Brenda too.
Yes. But yes, and she is busy with her own health clinic in Barbados. So I have a feeling you're going to be being put to work. But it's great to see your whole family here. And I also wanted to give Rod Jenkins a chance to comment if he wanted to. He is also a member of the Lincoln board. So Rod, I just want to give you the opportunity as well.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Good evening to everyone. I echo those sentiments that I've said before, and I am amazed by your beautiful family, Phil. I see why you are the man that you are and the man that many people in my position aspire to be. You're going to be missed. There's just no other way to say it. I thank you for all that you've done for Durham, healthcare in Durham, particularly for the most vulnerable population. You are a legend, and you're certainly someone that I personally aspire to be like when I grow up. But I will just say to you, thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for all that you've meant to Lincoln, and we wish you Godspeed.
Thank you, Rod.
The thing that I'm left with, Phil, is a quiet giant. Sometimes as human beings, we think that to show how big and how important and how smart we are, we have to talk. But the thing that I'm well left with you is you're a quiet giant. You get it done, and you don't try to talk everybody to death. So thank you for being that quiet giant.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. You guys take care of your grandpa. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Commissioners, we are down to our consent agenda. We have 16 items on the consent agenda. If there are any items that any commissioners would like to pull, we can put it at the end of the agenda to discuss. Interim County Manager, if there are no items that you want to pull, given that commissioners have gone over this information and during our work session, if there are no items to be pulled by any commissioner, I will ask for a vote to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
A second, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and properly second to approve the consent agenda. Okay, we need a verbal vote.
Commissioner Alone,
Aye.
Commissioner Burns,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jacobs,
Aye.
Chair Howerton.
Aye. Consent agenda is approved 5-0. Now we are down to, let me scroll down here. I think we have Second. We have a public hearing, 210553 is a public hearing. So it's a zoning map change 2104 and 2112 Ellis Road, Z to 00000042. The board is requested to conduct a public hearing and receive public comments on a zoning map change 2104 and 2112 Ellis Road, Z 2000042, and take two motions. We have Danny Bertra, senior planner, is on the line with this conversation.
Thank you, Chair Howerton. Good evening to you, Madam Vice Chair Jacobs, and members of the Board County Commissioners. It's Danny Coltra, and I'm
Okay,
yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
That's okay. I don't present to you this board very often, but anyway, I'm representing the planning department tonight. First, I would like to state for the record that this agenda item has been advertised and noticed in accordance with all state and local laws, and the affidavits for the notices are on file with the planning department. But this request for zoning map change was received from Robert Shunk of RJ Design Group, acting as the agent for Jonathan Gendis of Stackhouse Development LLC, the applicant and the owner, to change the zoning designation of two parcels of land totaling 4.86 acres and located at 2104 and 2112 Ellis Road. The site is presently zoned residential rural RR and residential suburban 20 RS20 and is in the suburban development here. The applicant proposes to change the designation to commercial general with the development plan, or CGD. The site is designated research and research application on the future land use map, or FLUME. The proposed CGD zoning is inconsistent with the designated future land use, but if the proposed zoning is approved, staff recommends a change to the FLUME to designate the property as commercial. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the proposed development by a vote of 9-3 at their July 13th, 2021 meeting. Since the Planning Commission hearing, the applicant did add a text amendment 5 to the cover sheet on the development plan to address the Commission's request for consideration of stormwater measures to ensure site stormwater control of up to a 100-year storm event. There are two motions required for the application tonight. The first is to adopt an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance by taking the property out of residential rural and residential suburban 20 and establishing the same as the commercial general with the development plan CGD. And also to adopt the appropriate statement of consistency pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 160D-605. Thank you very much, and staff is available for any questions, and I'm sure the applicant team is also available to address any questions.
Thank you, Danny. Commissioners, are there any additional questions for staff before I open the public hearing? Commissioner Lum, and then I see Commissioner Jacobs' hand.
Yes, I don't know. Madam Chair, will the email that we received from Todd Patton, will that be included in read in the public? Because I had questions regarding that.
We will have, at the appropriate time, I'll have Monica read any comments that have come in.
Okay, so should I ask my questions after it's read?
If it's pertaining to that, yes, that would probably be better.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jacobs, you had a question?
Well, I had similar questions. I had reached out to the applicant regarding that, and I had also reached out to Sarah Young, who was busy, and she knew she wouldn't be able to get back to me, but I did have some follow-up questions, so I'll wait until after we hear the public comment.
Okay, so if there are no other questions from commissioners to staff, I will now open the public hearing and have the clerk acknowledge any callers on the line or any speakers. and read the comments received.
Chair Howerton, we do have Eric Rifkin on the line, and we also have Patrick Biker on the line. The board received an email. The cutoff time was actually at 2 p.m., but it came in just a tad bit later. But I was given the okay to go ahead and read the comment. If you would like, I can read this first, and then we can follow up with Mr. Biker and Mr. Rifkin.
Please, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Members of the Board of County Commissioners, in regard to case Z2000042, 2104 and 2112 Ellis Road, on September 13, 2021 agenda, I encourage you to vote against this proposal for the following reasons. The property is currently zoned residential. Housing costs in Durham are skyrocketing due to high demand for housing and a shortage of supply. Durham rental rates increased by 3.6% in just the past month and 10.2% in the past year. He did include a link to apartmentlist.com. 600,000 people will be moving to the Triangle over the next 20 years, including 90,000 to Durham. About 40,000 new housing units will be needed in a very limited amount of space across Durham. Considering the density of the multifamily development nearby, this site is large enough for 100 plus apartments. This is the best use for this site. This is not the time to be reducing the amount of land available for new homes. He also included another link to WRALTechWire.com. Reason number 2, the property lies about a half mile from the North Carolina Railroad crossing of Ellis Road. That crossing is proposed as a stop for the regional passenger rail line planned to run from Durham to Clayton. This stop would serve the northern part of RTP and surrounding areas. A self-storage site is not a transit-friendly development. Details on the regional rail plan may be found here. He included www.readyforrailnc.com. The third and final reason, this is a high visibility site along the Durham Freeway at the entrance of Durham. Is this the type of development that we want as the first thing people see when leaving RTP for Durham? As the staff report notes, there are already 15 storage businesses within 5 miles of this site and dozens more across Durham. Please don't just accept whatever a developer brings forward. Durham has a limited amount of developable land. Demand the highest and best use for this site. Multifamily housing that would help to address the housing shortage and gentrification of Durham. Sincerely, Todd Patkin.
Thank you, Monica. Patrick Biker.
Very good. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful to be with you all tonight. Good evening, Chair Howerton, Vice Chair Jacobs, members of the board. I'm Patrick Biker with Morningstar Law Group, and I live at 2614 Stewart Drive. I'm here this evening representing Stackhouse Development, LLC for this agenda item. With me this evening is Robert Shunk, the Director of Entitlements for Stackhouse. What Stackhouse is proposing is a climate-controlled self-storage building on the south side of Ellis Road next to the northbound off-ramp of the Durham Freeway. I do want to stress that in response to the comment about visibility from the Durham Freeway, the previous comments that the clerk read into the record were, in fact, I think, in error, because there's about 100 feet of woods or more between the Durham Freeway and the site that we're discussing tonight. So I don't think there'll be any visibility from the Durham Freeway at all. I hope you've had the opportunity, though, if you've gone out to this location, to see the transformation of Ellis Road that's taken place over the past 5 years. Mr. Eric Rifkin, who's the master developer of Ellis Crossing, he will be here tonight to share his support for this zoning map change based on his experience with Ellis Crossing, which is providing a large amount of new housing of all types, apartments, townhouses, and single family in this part of Durham to the north of Research Triangle Park. It is important to recognize that many of the users of climate-controlled self-storage are non-residential. To that end, I've been working on several new ventures in RTP over the past 2 years, and it is clear that RTP is enjoying a renaissance of its own. I think the current level of of activity in RTP is the strongest it has been since the 1990s, when I started working in Durham on development projects. At this juncture, the hub in RTP will be creating new residential and commercial development, and that in turn will generate demand for self-storage facilities. My guess, based on working around RTP for many years, is that this storage facility on Ellis Road is just about a 5-minute drive from the hub. But more important, I think, are the storage needs of the fast-growing startup companies and CROs, or contract research organizations, in RTP. IQVIA and other CROs are located on Ellis Road, along with other R&D tenants in the buildings owned by Alexandria Real Estate, and they will be customers for this self-storage facility. These R&D companies and CROs will need it for off-site document and material storage. If you think about the large facilities along the south side of Ellis Road, to the east of this proposed storage facility is the former Reichhold Chemical Building, and along the west side of the Durham Freeway is the former GlaxoSmithKline campus. I worked on the purchase of these two large facilities by Alexandria Real Estate over the past several months, and so I spoke to Alexandria directly about the need for their startup companies and CROs to have off-site climate-controlled. Moreover, there certainly are other R&D facilities nearby who can gain operational efficiencies by storage of materials and documents at Stackhouse's new storage facility, rather than paying premium lab rents for their storage needs. This in turn helps Durham County demonstrate that we have a cost-effective business environment, as well as a top-notch labor force as we support new companies in RTP. Next, I want to emphasize the existing traffic infrastructure at this location. This is a right-in, right-out location due to a very long concrete median in the middle of Ellis Road. Accordingly, this is a very poor site for residential development or retail development, and it seems obvious that these access conditions would doom any residential development or retail establishment to failure. In conclusion, it is clear that we have strong demand for climate-controlled storage from RTP-related entities. Besides that demand driver, we also wanted to be sure that the members of the board also heard about Ellis Crossing, our neighbor to the north. As I noted earlier, Mr. Eric Rifkin is the master developer of Ellis Crossing, and so now I'll turn it over to Mr. Rifkin. After that, we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much for your time tonight. We respectfully ask for your approval.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and good evening, Chair and Commission. My name is Eric Rifkin. I'm at 56 Hunter Street in Apex, North Carolina, and I appreciate everyone's time this evening to discuss the proposed development on the south side of Ellis Road. As Mr. Biker mentioned, I am a representative of the developer for Ellis Crossing, which is a 345-acre mixed-use development just north of this site. All told, when the development is built out, there'll be over 1,800 units and over 150,000 square feet of commercial space in the development, including, if you've looked at recent articles in the TVJ, Publix. We are in support of this adjacent use. It is a good complement for everything that we've done, which covers townhomes, single-family homes, garden-style apartments, as well as, hopefully, to be approved elevator apartments, which will allow persons with limited mobility to have access to this part of Durham, which they did not before. One thing we do not have and is not planned is self-storage. As also the president of the HOA, I can tell you that I've heard from many people that they love their home, they love Ellis Crossing, but they don't want to have to drive halfway across town to get their belongings. So we're here in support of Mr. Shunk and his proposed development, and be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Schronk, would you like to speak?
Good afternoon. I think Patrick has represented us pretty well, and I have no further comments. I'm here and available for any questions you might have that Patrick can answer.
Well, thank you. So, commissioners, you have questions? Commissioner Long?
Thank you, Chair Howerton, and thank you, Patrick, Eric, Robert, for joining us, and Todd for sending in your comment. I had a question. Is there, and I can send this in via email because the public comment's going to be open for at least 24 hours, right? So if Ellen or someone from transportation team isn't available, I was really intrigued by the point Todd had mentioned, the number 2, around how this may impact the potential for the regional passenger rail line. So I was wondering if any staff were available to speak on that, if there is any impact and what that may be. But if they're not available, I can email that to them.
Just remember, commissioners, that we're not voting on this tonight. So anything that doesn't get handled tonight, you've got 24 hours. You got until September 27th to get those questions answered. So it doesn't have to be tonight.
Sarah came on. I don't know if she came on to answer.
Good evening, commissioners. I just wanted to defer. That really is a question for transportation staff to answer. We in planning know tangentially a bit about the project, but that's definitely not our expertise. That's something that could definitely be brought back as additional information for you all.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner Jacobs and Commissioner Carter? Okay.
Yes, thank you. And I'm glad that we actually have 2 weeks to try to get some of these questions answered. And I think, it's just important when we make these decisions, we want to be always, making decisions about what is the highest and best use of a piece of property. And to also address the needs in our community. So to understand the complexities of that. And that's why when we got this email, I did reach out to the applicant. And I wonder if, Robert, maybe you could talk a little bit about did you do an assessment of this being possibly medium density residential, which is what is at the kind of the other corner across, I guess, the intersection of 147 and Ellis. And, what other uses did you look at for this site?
Yeah, good evening again. So we had originally purchased this property to build an office building. We later ended up purchasing a building on Weck Drive. Weck Drive is just near the intersections of T.W. Alexander and Miami Boulevard. We found that to be the better use for an office building just because of the median along the site. So when we moved over, we do own a few other storage facilities in the area, and because of the median, we felt that this was the highest and best use because of the limited access to it. The most appropriate thing was to follow in suit with our storage. With the 1,800 units that Mr. Rispin has proposed over there, with an access via traffic light and a second access, trying to bring a residential over here really didn't make sense. We did also make many attempts to reach out to the owners to our north and to develop a larger continuous development there, but for the last couple of years they did not want to entertain any idea of trying to do anything development. So here we own this property. We are developers of self-storage. We also develop residential lots in the community as well. So given all of the factors and what our business models are, it seemed appropriate, and based on the need, as Patrick Biker indicated, with the needs of off-site document storage, this seemed like to be the best use, given all those factors.
Thank you. Sorry, if I could just follow up with that, it's a very oddly shaped site too. It's 700 feet deep going south from Ellis Road, but it's only 200 feet wide. So if you think about it, 200 feet in order to fit building and parking really doesn't work. So in addition to the reasons Robert stated, you also have the geographical constraints of the way the lot is configured. It would be basically impossible to build something that would only have a right in, right out access with a 200 feet lot plus you'd have to subtract out the buffers that would be required as well.
Thank you. And Robert, could you explain a little bit more what the impact of a median and right in, right out has on a residential development?
My view is that, residential, whether it's a residential use or an office use, you want as much flexibility, to get in and out. So residential use is going to residential use is going to have a lot more traffic coming in and out of it. So, versus a self-storage facility. So all of that additional traffic would have to go, east on Ellis, make a U-turn, get 147. Or if you're coming from Miami Boulevard, you're having to go through the two intersections of 147 and Ellis to make a U-turn to come back to your site. So even from a safety factor, it's just not an appropriate use. So you add that many more people making a U-turn, doesn't seem appropriate.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Did I see another hand? Did Carter, Commissioner Carter, did you have your hand up?
I really think that Nitha and Wendy have pretty much covered my question or questions. I did think this was a really interesting case. It started off, I thought, very straightforward. Patrick is always so kind to reach out to us to see if we have any questions, explain it to us in advance, which I always really appreciate. And it did seem sort of cut and dry, and maybe it still should be. But when we got at least one email, sort of raising up what almost feels like a policy concern. Yes, we need more housing in Durham, and this is residential, so it does seem counterintuitive that we would sort of upzone it to a commercial zoning when we need to be building residential. But you all are making a good case for the fact that this lot is not suitable for that, perhaps. I did think it was a really compelling point, though, that it's so close to where a commuter rail station could be one day, and we would want a transit-oriented development type of project to be close to that. So I don't know that storage really fits the bill there, but if you've got a lot of people living there and a lot of businesses there in a dense way, maybe there are that many people who need storage. I'm taking your word for that. It's hard for me to believe, but you made a good case for that too, Patrick. But anyway, I don't really have any questions.
Okay. I think if I could just respond, all these arguments were made to the Planning Commission, and they voted 9-3 in favor of this proposal. So I do want to stress that. I really appreciate Mr. Cultra mentioning that. So all these arguments were thoroughly debated at the Planning Commission, and I usually don't get a 9-3 recommendation for approval just to put all my cards on the table. So I was very appreciative of the support from the Planning Commission. And you have to keep in mind, this site is over a half-mile walk from that site, which is that's a hike. So I mean, I think Mr. Rifkin's neighborhood is much, much closer. So he's already building the type of housing that would support transit usage. And keep in mind, I was chairman of the Transit Authority for many years. You all heard that during my stump speech during the illustrious county commissioner campaign. So what my point is that I don't think that's necessarily a valid argument. That's a half mile is quite a hike. That would be outside of what we call the core area. The Plan Director Young can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I recall, our planning around transit stops, if you were more than a half mile away, you were outside of what was called the core area. And so again, I was into transit before transit was cool. And I just don't see how this site, which is only 4.8 acres, less than 200 feet of area to develop, I don't see how it moves the needle in terms of generating ridership for a rail line that stretches from, from Hillsborough to Johnston County. That's a long ways. And so I don't think 4 acres along the Durham Freeway is really going to move the needle in terms of ridership for that length of a transit. So just wanted to make sure you had all the background on that, Commissioner Carter. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
I
you,
appreciate it.
Patrick. So commissioners, so that makes it really great that due to our virtual meetings, the new rule requires all public hearings to remain open for 24 hours to allow time for additional public comments. And in that time, if any of us want to take a ride out to check it out, we can do that. The public hearing will close tomorrow, September 14th, at the conclusion of this meeting. This item will be moved to the September 27th regular session meeting, and at that time, comments will be received and shared, and a vote will be considered.
Anyone who takes a ride out, feel free to stop by for some tea. I live about 5 minutes away from this place.
Oh my goodness.
So thank you, Robert, Eric, and Patrick.
Thank
And
you.
we'll
Thank
come
you,
back
everybody.
on 7. Thank you.
Thank you for
Appreciate
your time
y'all's
this
time.
evening.
Good night.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So the next item is 210569, and this is our public health director update on COVID-19 crisis. Ron, it's welcome back. You know, we've been away for a minute. Now we get to hear you tonight.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good evening to you, Vice Chair Jacob, fellow commissioners, Interim Manager Hager, General Managers, Acting Attorney Darby, and staff. It's been a great pleasure to provide you with some updates. September 13th, 2021. Just going to ask if you can see the screen. We continue to recommend a layered prevention strategy. That's the obvious, which is to get vaccinated. But we want you to continue to practice the 3 W's, wear, wait, wash, and more importantly, do whatever we can to get as many people vaccinated as possible. We know that vaccines continue to be promoted because they are the way to make this pandemic end. Total cases the past 7 days have been 761. We did have a couple more deaths since the last time we met. Hearts, minds, meditations are always with those families that have succumbed to this real, this very clear and present respiratory pathogen. Other deaths associated with COVID remain at 11. Again, our 7-day moving average has decreased, which we are happy to report because it was surging and our staff really feeling the brunt of it. So there's a decrease of 43% since last week, 30% since the previous week, and all of that is reflected in our coronavirus data. So far, since September the 10th, there's been 1,084 COVID-19 cases, all associated with the Delta virus. The screen is a little bit busy, but we just want to keep in mind that African Americans, so far for the month of September, have represented the largest demographic for COVID-19 confirmed cases, followed by whites, followed by others. We do have females being heavily infected, and then of course we also have the age range that seems to be to think that they're invincible to COVID-19, and that is those individuals who are 25 to 49 years old. We continue to look at this entire pandemic experience through a racial equity lens. And for the month of September thus far, our Hispanic or Latinx and white population continue to be either proportionally represented or underrepresented. Our African American population still representing a high volume of our cases, right at 46.1%. Our positive percentage of labs confirmed has dipped down below 7%. Right now it's 6.9%. That is a decrease from 9.8% 2 weeks ago. So we're seeing that fluctuation due to the Delta variant. It's important to note that our positive percentage rate has been above 5% since July 25th. Per the CDC, 66.9% of our eligible population has been vaccinated. So we continue to do extremely well when it comes to vaccinations in Durham County. We are proud to report that, again, for our seniors, 84.9%. Once upon a time, our vulnerable population. Right now, our vulnerable population is our children, and we are keeping a very close eye on COVID infections in children. Our level of community transmission is no different than any other counties. We are one of 100 that has a high rate of community transmissions due to the Delta variant, as reported. 373,464 vaccinations have been performed in Durham since September 3rd, through today. We have seen a slight decrease in vaccinations, and of course that is attributed to the fact that we are no longer providing incentives for vaccinations. So as expected, we do see a decrease. However, we are still vaccinating. This slide presents data for Durham residents, and again, since August 1st, the population with the greatest number of people vaccinated continues to be white, followed by Black African American, and then of course Asians. But I'm proud to report that through August to the present, we have seen strong gain in the African American community being vaccinated, and that has been attributed to vaccine incentive that we were given. As a reminder, it was $100 for first dose vaccination, $25 for transporting individuals to be vaccinated. Again, as mentioned, a white population represents 56.96% full vaccination, 15.09% partial. African Americans right now are at 41.69% full, 14.22% partial. Asian population continues to be strong at 67.62% full, 21.93% partial. Major gains with our Latinx population, total 26,291 have been vaccinated, thus representing 49.5% full vaccination, 19.74% have been partially vaccinated. We did see quite the number of Latinx individuals taking advantage of the vaccine incentive as well. Breakthrough cases continue to be monitored heavily. Proud to say that they are starting to decrease. During the month of August, we saw an average of 17.5% cases representing breakthrough cases. For those under the sound of my voice, breakthrough cases, those individuals who've been fully vaccinated for at least 14 days and still contracted COVID-19. So far through the month of September, we're seeing 18% less than it was during the same period last month, which has been decreased to 14.62%. Vaccine by month and race, again, we saw our greatest vaccinations in the month of April. And then again, the month of August saw the increase due to the incentive. And so far for the month of September, we're off to a relatively slow start. However, we are confident that we're going to see an uptick. And then, of course, the attack rate. I just want to remind the commissioners and the listening audience that unvaccinated individuals still represent a danger to COVID infections, and they are still likely to get COVID 5.5 times more likely to get COVID-19 as vaccinated individuals. So again, the attack rate among vaccinated individuals is relatively low, right at about 19.6 per 100,000. So this further just proves that vaccines work, and we encourage everyone to get vaccinated. Not COVID by age and vaccine dose. since January 1st, 2021. Again, we know that our seniors, age 80 and older, they have been vaccinated heavily, or over 80%, followed by age group 70-79. And as mentioned, where we have the most difficulty with vaccinations continues to be the age group from 25 on up to 49. We know that, again, age 12 is the cutoff at present. We look forward to when vaccinations can go for those individuals who are age 5 to 11. And we hope that that's going to be within the next couple. Again, the risk of dying and mortality is still greater for those people who are not vaccinated. Those who are vaccinated represent 0.753 per 100,000 or 75%, whereas vaccinated individuals 0.14 or 2%. And again, we're keeping a close eye on educational clusters. We continue to see most of our clusters in university settings. However, we do know that middle and high school do have some clusters, but not nearly as many as our universities. And proud to say that we continue to work very, very closely with Durham Public Schools and a lot of our charter schools just to make sure that they are able to continue to keep our most precious children safe. And then, of course, the last slide I'll leave you with is usage and capacity of hospitalization data. Again, this is clearly shows that PSU beds being used to treat COVID continues to fluctuate. As of September 5th, there's been 22 to 25 beds for COVID patients, particularly ICU, and inpatient beds hover around anywhere from 9 to 10. So again, we continue to work closely with our partners at Duke just to make sure that they're squared away. My understanding, they're in a good position. Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation. I wanted to make sure that we provide you with the most up-to-date evidence-based information, and I'm more than prepared to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jenkins. I just have one question. And I want to make sure I heard you correctly, that the highest level of infections are women. Did I hear that right?
Yes. We have seen, as of lately, we've seen COVID infections in African American women to be the highest at present.
Now, what percentage of that is causing death?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I didn't hear the question.
What percentage of that high rate is resulting in death?
Give us a second. I would have to get back with you the information as far as mortality is concerned, but I will say we have not really seen many deaths due to, female, African-American female deaths due to COVID. In most cases, we have seen many Caucasian males succumbing to COVID-19 as a result of long-term illnesses, still coming from many from long-term care facilities.
Okay, is that a lack of not being vaccinated?
Yes.
Okay. Right,
unvaccinated still represents the majority of our hospitalizations and the great majority of our deaths.
Thank you. Other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Burns?
How you doing, Rod?
Hey, Commissioner Burns.
Yeah, I did want to I hope you and your staff are taking care of yourself. Are you taking care of yourself?
I'm eating a lot of Reese's Pieces peanut butter cups. So
that's a no. You and Drew Cummins with y'all candy. When they open the building back up, I know where to go. And when I have my 2 o'clock sugar meeting, you and Drew. I only asked because I can't remember, and I apologize if it was Alabama or Mississippi, but their mirror to Mandy Cohen, their public health director, their secretary, broke down crying on television on CNN, and he said, we cannot continue to do this. He was like, we just can't. And so I do want to do a wellness check. And if you do, I know you'll go to Claudia, but I want to make sure that you and your staff are taking care of yourselves, because I know it can't be easy on you all either, especially when I know you all are doing your best. I want to double back on something that Commissioner Howerton asked, because I picked it up too. When I saw that age range and I saw that females had finally did an uptick and it was African-American women, one of the things that I thought about was that age range. That age range also represents a lot of our essential workers. So that is who works in restaurants, that is your CNAs, that is who's working in school systems, who's driving public transportation. So also we have to be very cognizant of the fact that that age group, that race, and that gender is very public facing and does not have the privilege of staying at home. That in no way is me saying that this is why, because we didn't get a breakdown on that slide of how many of those were breakthrough. Many of us actually have friends. I can think, in this past week, we've seen breakthrough cases with folks who have been fully vaccinated. So while I won't put that on you now, I would love to see, I know Commissioner Howerton asked about this, I would love to see the percentage of breakthrough cases on that subset, if that's and I can get that later. I also want to go to your last slide, and that'll be my last question, when we were talking about beds. The blue circle, the blue dot said percentages of beds, but then I saw numbers like 24 and 23. So I thought that 24 and 23 was actual number, or is that actually representing percentage at Duke and Durham Regional? The reason why I asked, the media has thrown out that there are days that we are at 90% capacity. And I just want to know if that 24, 23 was percentage or actual real number.
It was a percentage, and thank you for your questions. The 20s, if you will, was percentage of all ICU beds to treat COVID patients. And the solid green,
okay.
And the solid green was inpatient beds being used to treat COVID.
No, that helps. So that means it's a percentage of all ICU. So there are people in ICU beds that are doing it. So, okay, so that whole 90% capacity of our beds in Durham County being COVID, that's not true. It's like 23. Okay, no, that is very helpful. Again, just thank you for all you do, and I'll give the rest of my time. And I know my colleagues have questions.
Absolutely.
Manager Hager.
I just wanted to just thank Rod and his team for all that they do. I know the question was asked, how are they doing? They are just super committed, but they're tired. They're tired, and I'm very concerned about their well-being. Fatigue after 18 months is tough. And so, we will come to the board in October with some recommendations on those hard to recruit positions. There are some in public health that meet that threshold. But I am concerned for them, and there are some others that have been directly impacted by this pandemic. And it's a toll. So I just wanted to express that, but to thank his team, who they get a second breath and they keep pushing. But they're in the forefront, so it's different. So thank you.
Thank you, Interim Manager Hager, and of course, Commissioner Burns. I do say that in jest. I do love peanut butter cups, but one of the things that I make it a regular point to do is to make sure that people take some time off. I have 2 deputies that you've met. They're fantastic, but they deserve some time away. And we make sure that folks know, like, you don't have to stay in the game. Raise your hand if you need a break. And I'm proud to say that there are folks who've really heeded that call, and they're taking care of themselves. And we've purchased the book Burnout to make sure that people can read and assess what's going on. And we have reached out to HR to see whether or not we can get PAP on site if people need it. We're still working through the particulars with that, but we want people to be able to talk about what's going on in their lives. We do know that people have personal issues that may be going on in addition to professional issues. So we are doing all that we can. You have my word that I'm making sure that my folks are good. Because, as Winter Manager Hager said, there's a lot of poaching going on. There's $20,000 being offered to sign up nurses at UNC Health.
You so took it out my mouth.
We need as many.
Took it out my mouth.
It's incredible, but it's just indicative of what's going on right now. So we are making sure that our folks are well taken care of.
Commissioner Howerton, if I may, just really quickly and not to belabor the point, Interim Manager Hager, thank you for being proactive. I did not know that those were the recommendations you were coming forth, that you were bringing forth to us in October. I know that the knee-jerk reaction of some people on this board is to give to the loudest voices. If you can't hear me when I say it, please hear what Rod just said about the $20,000 incentive, about the $190 an hour, about the $120 an hour, about all of those things. There are probably 2 or 3 people in the county who know very well since about June 18th. I have slept at a hospital every night. I was afraid for my life every night I went in there. Every night that I went to the hospital, because I knew that that hospital was understaffed. Trash cans were not being changed. There were new nurses every day who were 22 and 23 years old, and we were pulling them from every place. So as we think about how we're going to staff here, as we think about how we are going to staff and our local schools, we need to be very cognizant of what the real world is dealing with, because I know what I had to deal with. I know what my family members had to deal with. And we are losing doctors and nurses and medical staff in spades in Durham County. And I was at an event about a week ago, and I can't even tell you how many people came with me to talk about our social workers and our nurses. And some of it, to be honest, was quite inflammatory. And I knew I was going right back to the hospital to sleep that night in a place to protect my relative, not because these people didn't care, but because they were literally short-staffed. So be kind to our staff, listen, and if you are not living this every day, let's not make broad sweeping generalizations about it. Let's not go to community meetings with groups and make broad generalizations about it. Let's not have people to submit public comment about it, because real people's lives are at stake here. And that is all I will say. For those of you who I did trust enough to tell, my family member did come home this weekend, but 3 months of staying in the hospital took its toll even on me. So I appreciate you, Rod, and that is why I'm checking on you, because I saw a lot in these past 2 months. And I do apologize, Madam Chair, and I'll stop.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Thank you, Commissioner.
So there's no, Commissioner Burns, there's no reason to apologize. Sometimes as elected officials, we forget the human beingness of being human. And, we take care of the business, but sometimes we forget that there's a human being attached to all these things that we do. And I just want to say thank you, and thank Manager Hager for bringing that forward. And Rod, you and your team, just let them know that we love them, we appreciate them. These 18 months have really taken a toll on them. Over and over again, they are stretched. So yeah, we know, and we know, and we don't know. It's like we are not in there like they are every day. So we can empathize, but we're not there doing the work that they're doing. So we appreciate them, and we want them to take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
Mr. Jacobs?
First of all, on a positive note, I just want to acknowledge that, Rod, you were recognized on Friday night at Durham Day over at the Duke and A&T game, as well as Ari Shine. So I want to just recognize both of you for your contributions throughout the pandemic. And I also want to acknowledge our interim manager, Hager, for the leadership you're showing also around the issue of vaccinations, because it's really upsetting to see the numbers that you just showed us, Rod. 761 cases in 7 days in our community. And it's just, and people are burnt out. Who thought that we would be at this point after 18 months? And how deadly this Delta variant really is, how deadly it is. So I would say to people, if you don't want to get vaccinated for yourself, do it for our staff, do it for our frontline workers, do it for our public health workers, do it for them. It's just, and for our children who are now in school, and we see what's happening with children and people who can't, their children are not eligible to be vaccinated yet. And for immunocompromised people in our community, So I hope that this will really inspire people to go out and get vaccinated for everybody else, even if you don't want to do it for yourself. So thank you, Rod and Ari and all of your teams, everybody who has been working nonstop for all this time. I guess, Rod, my one question to you was how things are going with the community partners and the community providers, and just how you felt like that effort was going at this point.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and thank you to Interim Manager Hager for the recommendation. It was great to be with Ari Shine for some 3 Fs, some family, some food, and some football on a Friday night. We had a marvelous time, and it was great to be with Ari. And we accepted our honor on behalf of our staff. I mean, we're just the front man in a band that really rocks. So I just want to say that. Our community partners continue to do a very good job. Durham serves as the vaccine hub for our area, and we get that great opportunity to really partner with a lot of pharmacies, a lot of different groups, War for Life, Chapel Hill Pediatrics, a lot of different areas that are doing vaccines, and just about everyone is really gearing up for boosters, third doses, whatever you want to call it. And then also we're really patiently waiting for that authorizations to be able to vaccinate pediatrics. That's ages 5 to 11. But we stand ready to assist. Helen Tripp and the community paramedics have been fantastic. We have literally been every nook and cranny of Durham County. And, again, we have taken the opportunity to really take a rest, to allow Delta to tamper down, to be able to have the privilege to, really participate in select events. We look forward to being a part of the Pride event on the 25th of September. And there's a couple of other high-profile events that we will be present in the county. Madam Vice Chair, we're good. And our partners are still chomping at the bit, doing whatever we can do. As one of the larger counties with the highest vaccination rate, we take great pride.
And related to that, Rod, since the Biden announcement about employers with 100 employees or more, have you had seen any companies reaching out to you about that?
I have not, Madam Vice Chair. I was on a state call at 11 o'clock today, and they were asking the same thing, whether companies are reaching out with the resources for vaccinations and or testing. And the answer is no, not thus far. And I think that's indicative of the fact that we're in the city of Memphis. We're in an area that has a high rate of vaccination. So they have been proactive all this time. months ago, they've been reaching out to us to have vaccination clinics. We've had companies ask us to come on site to do vaccination clinics. So, I think we're in a very good place, but should they ask, we stand ready to assist.
Thank you.
So Rod, again, thank you so much. And Manager Hager, I look forward to have a conversation about long-term, about the health and well-being of our folks in the health department.
Commissioner Howerton.
Hey, you have something else, Commissioner Burns?
I just want to make sure, because since Commissioner Jacobs brought it up, she asked about the community partners. I've never been worried about the community partners because they've consistently worked for over 18 months. I've always been worried about them getting paid. I know that they have a grant with us as well as a grant with the state. I have 2 emails here where Andrew Herrera has admitted to not being able to pay people for June and July out of his state grant. I'm looking at them right now on my computer. So I know that he's not paying about 10 community partners. Mr. Jenkins, have you gotten any complaints about him not paying people with our funding?
I have not gotten any direct complaint, but I have heard some innuendos of what you've alluded to, Commissioner Burns.
I will continue to investigate. Thank you so much. I don't want to hold up the meeting any further. I just wanted to make sure the public knew he was still not paying Black CBOs in 5 counties. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Our next item, last item on the agenda is 210541, our county food security initiatives update recommendation. And we'll have Mary Oxidine here for this presentation. Hi, Mary.
And
And
County Manager Claudia Hager had her hand up right before we transitioned, so I want to make sure that we acknowledge anything that she wanted to say before we get started.
That's not a problem. Yeah, Commissioner Howerton, you missed my hand. I'll be 1 minute. I did want to clarify so I won't have other employees who will hear this and say, well, she didn't reference us. In the budget process, we told the board we would come back with some recommendations for hard to recruit positions, as well as evaluating how to retain them. And so it will be the public health area, DSS, our public safety, our sheriffs, EMS, those areas. But we'll give more updates on that. But I wanted to make sure I said that so I won't get inundated with email because I'm behind at least a month. So I just wanted to clarify that. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Interim Manager Hager, and thank you, Mary, for making sure that we allow her to speak. So now let's move on to you and our food security initiative update.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chair Howerton, and I apologize for interrupting you earlier. I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks so much, everyone. And thank you so much, commissioners, for allowing us the opportunity to share with you all today and others on the call, as well as those watching on YouTube. So we are coming today to provide you an update on food security efforts to date in response to COVID, as well as some initial recommendations for recovery. And thinking about those 18 months, we're really trying to start thinking about how we can recover. So you can go to the next slide, Mom. So today you'll hear from myself and Donna Ringwald, but we wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our county and community partners, and we've just listed some of them on this slide, and many of them are present with us today. But this does not list everyone. There's many others that we've been working with over the past few months, and definitely way more during the length of COVID. But just wanted to just kind of give a shout out to folks that are joining us, and we'll be able to share their videos. Next slide. So to give you a quick overview of what we plan on discussing today, again, we do want to provide you with an update on COVID-19 related food security initiatives. We're going to focus on things that we were doing since January 2020, and then also provide some initial food security recommendations related to ARP funding. And we have those broken out into two sections. One focused on urgent funding that we hope to move forward in the next month, and important recommendations that we hope to move forward within the next 6 months or less. And then we will definitely have time for discussion. Next slide. And I'm going to turn it over to Donna Rewalt to provide an update on food security initiatives so far.
Thanks, Mary. I'm really pleased to be here with you tonight again, commissioners, and with Mary Oxendine. Tonight we're sharing the county's food security investments since the start of the pandemic, and we want to at the same time acknowledge the many additional investments of funds, resources, time, and energy made by, and that continue to be made by, our community organizations and volunteers. Certainly when we talked a few minutes ago about how the pandemic has taken its toll on the energy and efforts of many in the county, this is also true of our community partners who have been serving food at heightened levels for 18 months now. So that's something I want to acknowledge as well. Next. So you'll see to date, commissioners, that the county has invested over $2 million in emergency food resources. We work with the excellent Emergency Operations Center, and Ari Shine, as you know, is here with us tonight. I think it's important to note a couple of things about this overall. One is that we collected and submitted data for every single one of these county investments for possible FEMA reimbursement. All of these were made through a process of identifying the opportunities, filling in gaps, and really looking at the whole food system when we were able to determine what was and what was not working and where county dollars could best be utilized. The efforts were also responsive to changing conditions. They offered flexibility, choice, such as culturally appropriate foods or different food types, so fresh food, frozen food, shelf-stable food, etc., as well as the availability of high quality and nutritious. And you can see that we focused on at-risk groups such as seniors early on in the pandemic and some of our Latinx households. Next slide. I want to spend a moment focusing a little bit on the county's largest investment, and that was particularly the Eat and See project. That was an outgrowth that evolved from our early Durham Feast work with the Durham Public Schools Foundation. What has happened throughout this project is an effort to actually deliver meals that are made by Durham restaurants directly to people who are most vulnerable. And that has evolved throughout the pandemic. So throughout the pandemic, on a quarterly basis, as this contract has been renewed, we look at and shift who exactly is most in need and try to make sure we're addressing those needs. Throughout this first period from September 1st through June 30th of this year, working with the Food Insight Group, that we know that we served over 124,000 meal equivalent to families and individuals. Over 570,000 school meals were delivered, part of that partnership. So during the time when schools were closed, we also delivered school meals as part of this work. So on a weekly basis, approximately 1,800 to 3,000 people were participating, just depending on the quarter and the population served. As well, several jobs in local restaurants were continued to be supported, and I think a couple were added as a result. Our second contractor, who has been an Eat and See partner from the beginning, is BU Cafe, which is a Black-owned business. Dorian Bolden, I think, is here with us tonight. This work is continuing and is focused on the changing conditions connected to the COVID variant. So we've added a little bit more focus, again, back on seniors and immunocompromised and other people who are particularly vulnerable at this moment. Currently, it's slated to end November 30th. There may be a need to continue this work past the state as we monitor conditions, and we'll certainly keep you abreast of that. I will say that we didn't expect to be asking for continuation the last time we did it, right? And I think we're, again, just continuing to wait and see, as most people do. The final investment here are fresh produce boxes. I'm going to let Mary talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, that we work with Farmer Future. Next. In addition, this year through the county's nonprofit program, there is a food security portion of that program, and $264,000 was invested through that. That was focused particularly on pandemic relief and recovery and some larger grants. I do want to note that among the grants that you see that have been provided in front of you, Durham Congregations in Action was our microgrants provider, and 15 additional agencies, in addition to the ones you see listed here, also benefited from these dollars by receiving microgrants for direct feeding in communities of color in particular. I also want to point out this picture. This is Miguel Riviera, who I believe is also on the call tonight. Miguel is a volunteer with Iglesia Presbyteriana Emmanuel on North Roxbury Street. They actually utilize some of their county funds, which I love. I love the sign on the refrigerator, I will admit, that says donated by Durham County. That's part of the way they use their funds there. They have increased in serving families from fewer than 100 before the pandemic to sometimes up to 500 during the pandemic. And they still remain at a very high level, and they've needed this additional capacity. So they're very grateful for that support. Next. I think a really important aspect of this work have been the support initiatives that we have participated in. First and foremost, the Durham County Food Security Task Force. 140 people are on that task force list, meeting weekly at the beginning, bi-weekly, and now monthly. We have a few pictured here with the Community Spirit Award from the Triangle Nonprofit and Volunteer Leadership Center. Also, we have the Feeding Durham Together volunteer strategy, also working with the Volunteer Center, where we're actually still actively recruiting community volunteers. The community volunteers are still needed to work with feeding organizations, particularly as people have gone back to work in school. The volunteer need is very critical. Also, our Food for Durham initiative with United Way, which is developing into a community-led food fund. We hope to share more with you about that in the future. And then a whole variety of technical assistance, targeted support, and special projects, from supporting feeding organization operations, finding PPE, dealing with pantry traffic, making funding connections, working with DPS's hardworking school nutrition team led by Jim Keaton, who's also on this call. Sometimes delivering up to 7,500 meals per week for pickup and delivery during the time that schools were closed. And then certainly our excellent DINE team paired with our city county GIS, who developed and maintained food resources map that is constantly updated and still being used and will be used. Next. A few lessons that I'd like to point out, and I think you'll kind of hear echoes of this in Mary's presentation in a moment. One is to build efforts on existing work. The Food Security Task Force would not have been successful without organizations that paved the way and previous community organizing efforts from Immigrant Durham and a variety of other groups. I think also bringing people together was an essential strategy. The task force calls on Wednesday mornings throughout the pandemic provide a central place for organizations to connect and share information with each other. Also, I think probably the third and fourth are probably two of the ones I think are most important. I think that the county intentionally chose to invest in those closest to and most knowledgeable about the communities they serve. These community partners were essential to the effective delivery of food and should be an integral part of future emergency food security strategy. We weren't a county that pulled up an 18-wheeler to the county parking lot and handed out kind of anonymous food. We worked with community partners in a very deep way, and I think that made us more targeted, more effective than we might have been otherwise. I do think our role in providing the funding and clearing barriers was really essential. And then finally, helping the work evolve, moving the work forward. So how can we continue to provide emergency food or utilize this charity model, but extending beyond that, more sustainable and more empowering food justice model in which community organizations offer more choice to clients, perhaps, where we help support residents in developing their own opportunities to food. I think we have a lot of opportunities here, but we also still have a current need to continue emergency support. And I'm going to turn it back over to Mary to really focus on what we are recommending.
Thanks, Donna. You can go to the next slide. So for this next section of the presentation, I'll focus on recommendations, particularly those that could be used with American Rescue Plan Act funding to help start moving toward an equitable food system and increased food security. Next slide. So before getting into the recommendations, I wanted to take a moment to provide a little context for the conversation today. And as Donna mentioned, there are definitely needs for emergency food assistance in the community. And while we do need to address those immediate food needs, we also need to be intentional about creating opportunities to systemically address inequities in our food system and society. So the strategies that you'll hear today, we hope to expand beyond food distribution to incorporate strategies that might lead to long-term impacts. And you'll see that thread woven throughout recommendations. And just so that you know, the recommendations are based on ongoing conversations that we've had with folks in the community, including 4 listening sessions. We also reviewed the survey responses from the city-county engagement, and then have been reviewing economic and food security data. And it does remain clear that there are high needs for emergency food assistance and other supports that cannot be met by existing aid streams. Next slide. So we wanted to also continue to provide a little bit more context and just kind of provide some high-level data points. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I just wanted to point out a couple of them that will definitely be relevant for later in the conversation. And just noting that food insecurity and SNAP participation rates are almost double the rates prior to the pandemic. And we'll talk about SNAP investments in a little bit, but I wanted to point out that $1 in SNAP benefits generates up to $1.70 in economic activity. So it's not just benefiting food insecure families, but it's really stimulating the economy. And we also wanted to note that BIPOC households, Black, Indigenous, and people of color households are more than 4 times likely to be food insecure and experience job loss at 2 times the rate of white households. And lastly, I wanted to note that investments in the agriculture sector are 2 times as effective at reducing poverty compared to other sectors. Next slide. So thinking about those needs that we mentioned in the community, we wanted to kind of summarize them in sort of 4 overarching bullet points. Food assistance organizations need immediate funding for food, infrastructure, supplies, and other items. Food insecure families also need additional support accessing fresh produce. And we'll talk about how strategic investments in that can, again, stimulate the economy. Particularly BIPOC communities, as I mentioned, are most impacted by food insecurity, and we recommend that they be prioritized for investments. And lastly, the food service is an important area in Durham, and it's the 4th largest business sector in Durham, and it continues to face significant negative impacts of COVID, especially BIPOC-owned businesses. And I wanted to make sure that we connect this to food security. So food businesses impact food security because they provide livable wage jobs and careers. They provide markets for local farmers and producers, and they also can be a resource for nutritious, affordable meals for people in the community. Next slide. So moving to our first category of urgent recommendations, and just as a reminder, by urgent we mean things that we would love to move forward starting in the next month or so. Next slide. So the first recommendation is to provide stopgap funding and develop long-term capacity for organizations addressing food security in Durham. Funding would be provided through grants to support agencies with food, infrastructure, materials, technological resources, and other operating. The funding could also support agencies to build their staff capacity, for example, through technical assistance, creating mentorship programs. It can be used for community gardens. So we're trying to make the uses of the grant pretty broad. The maximum for each grant would be $25,000 for a single organization and up to $75,000 for applications with 2 or more organizations partnering. So we're really trying to encourage collaboration with between organizations in the community. So the grants would total $1 million to be awarded, with an estimated additional $300,000 that would be required for local community-based organizations to operate. Next slide. The second recommendation in this category is to provide sustained access to fresh produce for food insecure families by continuing the produce box program that Donna mentioned earlier. It would not only provide food for those families, but it would also create a reliable market for Durham farmers, and it would also build capacity for BIPOC aggregators. So for the last 2 months, these produce boxes have helped ease the gap in resources. However, the program ended August 31st, and that the need for fresh produce has only increased over time, where before we were providing an average of 300 boxes per week. We've had requests of up to 1,000 boxes per week. So we recommend that we continue the program with a weekly average of 800 boxes starting hopefully October 2021, and continue the program for 3 years until September 2024. At a minimum, we absolutely would love to have some immediate COVID-related emergency produce boxes for the next 6 months that could potentially be funded by FEMA. Next slide. So the next recommendation is to replace and replenish end-of-life DPS kitchen equipment. And this would benefit over 50% of DPS students. It supports nutritious school meals, and it ensures food safety. These needs are based on a 2019 DPS facility needs assessment, and DPS has broken the cost out across priorities. Total, it's about $4.5 million, but with priority 1 being kitchen equipment that's well beyond the end of life. So priority 1 needed to be replaced between 2019 and 2021, and some of that equipment is already inoperable and in need of repair. For example, at CC Spalding, they have been without a dishwasher for 4 years and have been hand washing dishes. And priority 2 needs replacement between 2022 and 2025. Next slide. So those were our 3 urgent recommendations. The next recommendations are what we consider important and still are, we would like to move forward with these, but we would like to move forward in the next 6 months, not as urgent. Next slide. So the first recommendation is to increase fresh food access for food insecure population through enhancing and extending the Double Bucks program. Again, this would not only support food insecure individuals, but also support farmers. It would stimulate the economy. So we're recommending to extend this program until June 30th, 2025. Double Bucks is currently funded until December 2022. However, the current funding level is not adequate to meet the current need. As I mentioned before, SNAP participation has doubled since the beginning of the pandemic. And so this additional investment would match purchases at Durham Farmers Markets, the Durham, South Durham, East Durham, and the Black Farmers Market, as well as other local grocers. It would double purchases used with SNAP EBT, WIC, the Senior Farmers Market nutrition program vouchers, and cash for Section 8 housing recipients and participants at the Durham Center for Senior Life. The funding would also support program marketing and promotion, strategic initiatives, and some personnel and administrative costs. And we do recommend that this investment be shared across the county, city, and Duke Health. And we are currently in conversation with the city and Duke about potentially working together on this option. Next slide. So the next recommendation is to support generational wealth development by helping women and BIPOC-owned food businesses recover from COVID-19 through the Thriving Community Fund. So investments that would help stabilize and grow BIPOC-owned businesses would definitely encourage generational wealth development and support efforts to eliminate the racial wealth gap in Durham County. The Thriving Community Fund in particular provides access to capital, business development, mentorship, and continuing education. So over 2 years, this fund would provide an estimated 20 businesses with grants up to $10,000 each. Next slide. So the next recommendation is to invest in women and BIPOC farmers in Durham County to sustainably grow local food and recover from COVID. So this funding would expand the current agricultural economic development grants, especially for disadvantaged farmers over 4 years. It would prioritize women and BIPOC farmers who are growing food in particular. And this level of funding would increase our current impact by $25,000 per year. I just wanted to make a note that particularly for this recommendation and the previous one, studies do demonstrate that funds invested directly into local small businesses do directly correlate job creation and economic stimulus. So, next slide. So the last two recommendations, this one and the next one, are really focused on meaningful engagement with the community and assessing changes from COVID-19. These are our last two recommendations, but not necessarily the least. We would love to conduct community engagement to inform food system priorities and gain community input, build trust and rapport, and share power with the community. Clear community priorities and a baseline food system assessment, which I'll talk about in a second, can serve as a framework for future food system priorities and strategic recommendations. Next slide. So lastly, we recommend conducting a baseline food system assessment to understand the state of Durham County's food system after the negative impacts of COVID. We would use a mixed methods data collection effort to create a comprehensive snapshot of our food system. And the assessment would also recommend measures for ongoing monitoring and evaluation, especially for factors that contribute to equity and sustainability in the food system. And just in summary, we wanted to note that these recommendations really would significantly impact food security in Durham County. They would stimulate economic recovery and growth. It would be a significant investment in our BIPOC communities and build community and food system capacity. Our urgent recommendations do total about $8.6 million, and our important recommendations are about $1.5 million. And we would, for those urgent recommendations, we would like to bring proposals back to you in the next month based on your feedback. Next slide. So we do want to have time for discussion and answer any questions or comments that you have. I just want to circle back to acknowledge that we do have many of our community partners on the line that also help address some questions. And if they want to turn their video on at this time so that we can see you, if you can still keep yourself on mute unless you're talking, we'd love you to show your announcement.
So commissioners, you've got about 10 minutes. If you have questions or comments that you'd like, we've got 10 minutes to go. So questions, comments? Commissioner Burns?
Thank you, Mary. I know we welcomed you a couple of months ago, and it seems like you play with fire, so I can appreciate that. I can appreciate somebody who does their research, gives us multiple options. I don't know if you expect us to give you $11 million when we only have 50, because people have already started to spend it. Mary says, I actually do. Did y'all see that? She said, yeah, I actually do.
You never know if you don't ask.
You're right. Listen, you're right. So I can appreciate it.
Don't you know we got, Commissioner Byrne, don't you know we got a money tree?
No, because Commissioner Jacobs asked Derek last week, where was the money tree at? So either y'all know where it is and I don't know where it is, but we don't have one. I want to know, and this will, and I might have to follow back up with some folks. One, 4 years with our dishwasher, I did notice that one request for equipment. I would hope that this presentation is also being given at the city and the county level, because I did see a lot of cross. I saw a lot of things that you point out that you would hope to partner with the city, but where we got 56 million, when you put the ESSER funds with the ARPA funds, the school has 146. So if we're looking at replacing equipment at some of these schools, I am hopeful and prayerful, Ms. Oxendine, that you're going to ask them the same question. I'm going to drive down your street, Donna, for 2 seconds. Because the last time I talked to you, and I appreciate, Mary, that you said that there were many. I love when people come in and point out to me as a Black person, this will help Black people. It's interesting that all 10 of your things are going to help Black people. And I'm not saying that you just said it to, tickle my fancy, but my struggle is I actually know some of the data. So I don't know how some of this is going to get worked out. So Donna, I might have to follow back up with you. But last time I checked, we only have one Black farmer who is either GAP or GHP certified in the county.
So we only have a couple of farmers who are GAP certified, and there are a variety of reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with scale of farming in Durham, and we have a lot more farmers who, for example, farm multiple products. And so for every product, you have to be GAP certified. So if you are a small Black farmer and you are growing 5 different things, you would have to be GAP certified and pay fees in all 5 of those areas. And what we found, it's difficult. That's actually something we're working on, GAP certification, but it's a tougher. That'll be a great conversation for us all to have.
Well, and I'm gonna step back because I know my colleagues want to go, and I won't belabor the point. For everybody on here that doesn't know what GAP certification, GHP certification, the H, it stands basically for handling. If we're coming out of COVID, we want to make sure that these folks know how to handle, wash, clean, know that they put in good antimicrobial practices. I see some of y'all who know what I'm talking about. I'm driving down your street. So what we can't say is that we want to give millions of dollars and we want to help Black people, but we already know that the Black people in this community don't have some of these certifications in place. So in 2 years, I'm going to be asking, well, what in the world did y'all do with the money? I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying you can't kind of throw these ideas out at my feet and I not ask some very serious questions about it. Again, the presentation was very impressive, but Mary, Donna, I will definitely be following up with y'all next week. If you say to me that we had 5,800,000, 100,000, and I actually know how few Black women are actually certified in this county to even sell food to somebody, then I'm going to be able to come back and say, so I'll hold there and I'll come back to y'all. But I know my colleagues have questions.
Appreciate that. You don't have to be GAP certified to do.
You don't.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure.
But people are cognizant of it now.
Yeah.
Right.
So thank you for that. Would you like us to address it? We do have a couple of representatives from Durham Post.
Well, I will say this. Commissioner Howerton said that we only had 10 minutes, and I see my colleagues have it, so we can come back to it later and follow back up. That's okay.
Yeah, and I think what Commissioner Burns is, the aggregated data is one of the things that we would like to see. Is that, because talk is cheap. We would like to see the data of when you throw out going to help Black people. It very seldom materializes. I've heard that conversation for the past 12 years, and it doesn't materialize. So what I'm saying is, I've heard it, and we'd like for that to change.
And we love y'all. This comes from a place of experience. Don't think that we're attacking y'all. We just know how it works in this county. And if you all are really wanting to make it work different, Mary, I'm confident that you and Donna can do that. I see some of the other partners on here. You listed 5. I've seen how much food has been given out and how strategic and intentional it's been. But unless we have the hard conversations, it won't be successful long after I'm Commissioner Long, Commissioner Jacobs, Commissioner Carter, and Commissioner Howerton are not on this board. So this isn't us picking at you. This is us saying we've lived it a little bit different, and we want to make sure that people live it different a couple of years from now.
Is it okay if I respond?
Sure, go ahead.
Just really quickly, I absolutely appreciate Commissioner Burns, your questions, and I don't take offense at all. I like the hard conversations. So for the funding that we're talking about, you do not have to be GAP certified. I think that comes into play more if you're trying to sell food to schools, but that's not necessarily what we're trying to. That's not necessarily the proposal. It's more trying to support the farmers that do exist and create new opportunities for farmers and for businesses in the community.
And I think the bulk of the initial part of the funding is also for still kind of in that emergency food category, which definitely is providing food and resources to organizations. That is the data. Sure, more with you. Some of that's in the report.
Okay, other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Jacobs?
Yield to Commissioner Carter. I'll go to her.
Did I see your hand, Commissioner Carter?
Hers was up first, so she'll go first.
Okay, let's go to Commissioner Carter then.
Well, I don't know that it was, but thank you so much, Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair. I just want to first compliment Mary and Donna and all of the partners on what I thought was a very solid and very interesting presentation. And I really, appreciate hearing people come to us and say, this is sort of our vision and this is what it would cost. Knowing that we may be able to do it all, but I really appreciate knowing what the vision is and the cost associated with that. I liked every part of your vision, and I really think that all the elements are very important. I'm thinking about Commissioner Burns and Commissioner Howerton's concerns, and I'm wondering if we had if part of this process involved RFPs, would that help ensure that the people administering these funds were indeed in food-oriented businesses in our community, and they were BIPOC or women-led, businesses. It seems like if that were built in as part of the process, maybe that could help ensure that the money is indeed going to food or businesses that are dealing with food in some way, some part of the food system, and they're in our community as people of color or women-owned businesses. What would you all say to that?
I think for many of these, we would absolutely welcome an RFP process and would absolutely prioritize women and BIPOC owned organizations or businesses. And particularly for the recommendations about supporting the Thriving Community Fund. That fund is administered through Communities in Partnership, which in and of itself is a woman Black-led organization. But I think as part of the report that we submitted to you all, along with the presentation, we noted in there that we would absolutely prioritize women and BIPOC businesses for opportunities to kind of take this work forward.
Okay, great, and I hope that we can do that legally. I don't know what restrictions there are or aren't around RFPs, but I could imagine there might be some legal restrictions on what you can require. But I hope we can do that. I hope we can. I'd also like to ask Jim Keaton about the kitchen equipment, because that seems super important. I think that the child nutrition program at Durham Public Schools is our largest anti-hunger program in our community. And so we want to be sure that we can cook the food. Jim, are you coming to us as an enterprise fund, meaning one that has to raise its own revenue to meet its costs, or are you coming to us as part of Durham Public Schools? In which case, maybe you would get some of this funding from the Board of Education. Just trying to get some clarity on that.
So Matthew Palmer is also on here. He's my new supervisor. He's the Executive Director of Planning, Nutrition, and Transportation. As far as I'm concerned, child nutrition is an enterprise fund. We have to receive all of our own funding based on the meals that we serve, either reimbursement from the federal government or money from the parents paying for meals. And currently with Every Child Eating Free, there is no money coming from any of the parents. And the money coming from the federal reimbursement is a lot less because less students are eating. Not that less students are eating, but less students are in school. There are a lot of kids doing virtual learning and they're not eating, so we can't be reimbursed for their meals. So our costs are still going up because salaries have been increased by the county to $15 an hour. Benefit costs go up every year. Child nutrition doesn't receive any funding for any of those items. That all has to come from our own funds. So every time labor goes up, benefits goes up, we either have to cut equipment costs, we have to cut somewhere in order to make the difference up. So over the last several years, we've been purchasing, we may make $37,000 profit a year. That might buy one oven. But if you have 56 schools, one oven doesn't cover it. And when you're looking at emergency equipment, we purchase what we need when something completely dies. But so that's for like ovens, milk boxes, walk-in refrigerator, reach-in refrigerators, coolers, things like that. Now, as far as dish machines and hoods and things like that, those are structural pieces of the building. So those requests would be coming from Durham Public Schools itself. So there's two pieces to that. So I'm glad you asked.
Thank you, Jim. You've given us a lot to think about, and the federal school meals program is very complex. Lots of regulations, and not enough funding, and no funding from the state really. And I just want to say hello to all the partners, Jen and Jacqueline, and who else is on? Ari, Miguel. I see you there. I may be missing someone, but it's nice to see you all, and I want to just thank you for all the hard work that you have always been doing with our food system. I'm so grateful to you all, and when I attend these food security work sessions, I think that it's very clear how committed and dedicated you are and how much progress you're making and how dependent we are on you. For meeting the emergency needs, but also for shortening the line, not just filling the plate in an emergency kind of way, but doing things to invest in the community in a way that will shorten the line in the long run for food.
So Mary and Donna, so this is basically, and your partners tonight, the presentation is really for just to give us an idea of what it is that you are looking for. You're not looking for any particular responses tonight or any decisions. It's just an overview and an update. Is that correct, or is it something else that you wanted?
Maybe a both and.
I don't think we're looking for any immediate decisions right now, but I do think that particularly for example, some things like the produce box program that folks have been relying on for the past few months. If we're not able to necessarily move forward with any of these recommendations right now, we may potentially come back in a different platform under sort of the emergency operations to continue that, as there's still so much demand in the community or need in the community for fresh produce, and a lot of families have been depending upon that and still need that as a resource, at least for now. And so there are some things that we feel like are very urgent and are filling essential gaps in the community right now. But there are definitely things that we feel like, we could continue the conversation about at a later time.
Or it could be, at an introductory level. So, for example, the grants that we're talking about for community organizations, I think we stressed earlier how essential community organizations have been and continue to deliver food relief, and that need is still very current. And unfortunately, we really, there's not a lot of money out there for them right now. And so if there was maybe not 1.3 million today, but maybe if we could do a portion of that, that would be another one. That if we had $250,000, we could do a lot for organizations. I mean, some of these organizations, it's amazing what folks do. Jacqueline probably can tell you she's leader of a food pantry, leader of In Hunger Durham, and she knows how to stretch a dollar like nobody's business. And so I think they can do a lot with some money, but I think another group that needs to have some continued relief in terms of support.
And just to add to what
our manager, I think we need to allow the county manager to get back with us on this. There's a lot of requests that you have here, and I don't think we can sort that out tonight. So we'll need our county manager and staff to, what is it that we can do? Yeah.
Yes, board members, this is a great overview of needs and strategies. And the challenge for you as the board is the number of asks that we have before us. We've been sharing with the board the framework as to how we're moving forward with the use of our funds. We have additional updates that will come. Those guidelines are pretty precise, and because we're at a different stage in the process with the pandemic, the rules of engagement are a little bit different. So we want to make sure that we are advising entities with the rules that are there. For emergency items, we can fund, even if it's local dollars. However, we, as interim manager, I want to make sure that we keep in a context all of the needs as it relates to ARPA. We presented a rubric that the board will discuss at the next meeting. And as Donna shared, for the funds that they received previously through CARES, it went through that rigorous vetting. And so they're familiar with those kinds of evidence-based interventions and the data that's required. But we do need to do it in the context of the whole picture. And so in upcoming meetings, we'll have further board discussions. And as you know, we're partnering with the city with many of these conversations. And I know it gets a little frustrating because it's sometimes not moving as fast. But we also want to be very tactical with how we move with our dollars, because the 60 million is just not enough. And so timing wise, some I know will move ahead quicker than others. But as it relates to the whole process, we do want to make sure that the board has more conversation and the staff can give more guidance specifically on what has to be an RFP, which is pretty much most things, if not all, and other compliance guidelines. So those are my remarks with that.
I apologize, Commissioner Jacobs, because I know you were next with Claudia. I don't know you that well, but I know you well enough to know maybe when you're not saying something. So I'm going to ask. I don't know if you're going to answer. Have you seen these recommendations before tonight?
Well, I knew a proposal was coming. I had not looked at the details.
Okay.
But yeah, I knew that there was a proposal coming. There's another group that is working on recommendations for housing. And so there have been two large community groups that have been working on housing. So part of it is sort of timing of my engagement with some of it. And I know for that conversation that's happening, I think those, and Drew can comment, I believe they're to come forth in November. So it'll be a similar kind of situation where you will have big and small tasks, and some may fit on ARPA, some may be items that we fund through our CIP. Some may be something that's local through the local budget. Some we may have to get community partners or private sector dollars. So it is an approach to make sure you have the complete picture. And this is that first conversation. The next question is, well, how do we match funding with all of these opportunities? And we have a lot more opportunity than we have dollars, but we will make sure that we address the ones that are of highest priority as the board determines.
Okay, so it's almost 9:30. Commissioner Jacobs, do you have something that's quick?
Yes, I'd like the opportunity to speak. Thank you. So first of all, I just want to thank everybody who has been working on all of these issues for a long time. And I'm thrilled, Mary, that we have you as our food security coordinator. I mean, this is exactly why we need you. And I'm so excited to have this presentation and have you. It was fantastic to get the summary that I know a lot of folks worked on. When I read through it, the 11 pages of all of the food investments that we've been making since the beginning of the pandemic and how many different partners, it was just astounding, really astounding. So I'm just so grateful to everybody who's just been feeding people in our community. And then the report that we were given, almost 8 pages again, as Commissioner Carter said, it's just to have the vision out there is fantastic. I really appreciate what Interim Manager Hager just said, because that was going to be kind of my response. The question was going to be about process. It is really good to have these presentations, and I look forward to hearing about housing, because this is really important. This is what the ARPA funding is for, to address the most important needs and for transformative change, and just to make sure that we are really doing the best that we can with the funds we have. But I do think that it is going to be very important that we have a fair process, that we have a consistent process, that we have a rubric for decision making, and everything goes through that we have Claudia or Manager Hager, you and your staff helping us through that, because this is going to be really, really hard. And I am glad that we're working with the city, and I hope that this does get shared with Durham Public Schools too, because I'm sorry, Jim, the fact that you are dealing with all of this equipment that doesn't work is just horrendous. So we have to figure out a way to get all of these things done, and to work on it together. But the process for decision making is going to be important. So I just want to know if we could possibly, because we can't all ask all our questions now, what I would suggest, maybe Mary, is you reaching out to all of us and seeing if we could just have maybe only 2 of us at a time, but follow-up conversations or one-on-ones where people can just kind of get more into asking some questions. So that would be my suggestion for after this. And again, thank you, everyone.
I would be happy to.
And I just want to ask
all of you. Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, so one of the items was money kind of on the FEMA funding stream, and so that we would maybe move forward separately with that kind of.
Well, and let us look at all of it. We will follow up how to proceed, because FEMA's refined its rules too.
Okay.
So since communities have this infusion of dollars, we just want to double check to make sure that we've crossed T's, dotted I's, so that the folks who will be on the chopping block, myself, if we overcommit, we just want to do that double checking. And so that's why, from a process perspective, we want to prioritize things. And so we always move forward as fast as we can, but let us circle back so we can tell you which option will work.
Okay.
Well, again, I want to thank all of you for your report tonight, and the county manager, interim manager Hager, will take it from here. And I'm sure we will have conversations with Mary, you, and Donna to just kind of help us along in trying to figure out all the things that you are requesting. Heidi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quickly, when I hear the word in a presentation, stopgap, it makes me think that that must be, you know, the highest priority and it's needed more urgently. And I'm wondering if that could come forward in a more expeditious manner so that we could fund it, even if we fund it out of our fund balance or something, to be reimbursed later. Not the whole thing, but, you know, a portion. The very first recommendation, it was stopgap funding for emergency food, you know, money for smaller grants like the Food Security Task Force and Congregations in Action have already been distributing. It seems like the process is kind of in place. It just needs more funds. Maybe they could come back sooner than later.
Yeah, because let the county manager help us to determine which one of these things that we need to take on first, so that we're not just throwing the darts up on the wall and don't have a strategic plan around the whole thing. So I'm going to say thank you. Hey, something else?
Yeah, I just want to make one other comment. So in the budget, as you know, we did identify several areas that we were going to focus on funding. We're also taking them through the same process until we get, you know, and so it's there. We're hopeful, but that's the rigor we do, because I know Donna has lived through the compliance team's rigor, and although we know it's good, but we're doing the same thing for those items as well. And so I know it may get a little frustrating, but we will move swiftly, and we'll work towards coming back, because we know these are our residents that are in need. And as you know, we prioritize that.
Okay, so that is the last item that we have on the agenda. And again, thank all of you for being here tonight and bringing this forward to us. And stay tuned. There were no items pulled for the consent agenda. So if I can get a motion to adjourn. Unless you guys want to stay the rest of the night.
So moved, Madam Chair. So moved, Madam Chair.
So it's been moved and second.
We're getting requests tonight
to adjourn. Monica, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Alon. Aye. Commissioner Burns.
Aye.
Commissioner Carter.
Aye.
Vice Chair Jacobs.
Aye.
Chair Howerton.
Aye. It has been properly moved in second, 5-0 to adjourn. So we are adjourned. Good night.